failed as a father. I would have thought that any honorable man would have accepted responsibility for their misdeeds instead of getting your daughter arrested and charged. Yet you sat silent until today.
A former Southern Indiana sheriff has been sentenced to 12 years in prison after pleading guilty to charges that he spent millions of dollars in local funds on travel, gifts, automobiles, and other personal expenses. The Indiana State Police conducted dozens of searches that uncovered questionable payments for classic cars, college tuition, and an aircraft. He had used the Firefighter Association's funds as a personal piggy bank. Noel was originally charged with 31 felonies for allegedly misusing money from the fire and EMS departments, which he oversaw. He pleaded guilty to 27 of those in August. He agreed to plead guilty to charges of theft, money laundering, corrupt business influence, official misconduct, obstruction of justice, and tax evasion. 4 charges of ghost employment were dismissed as part of the plea agreement. Many people lost their near and dear ones due to his mismanagement of funds.
Once again, my name is Suzanne Davis. I have been involved in EMS for 16 years, 12 of which I've also been a firefighter. I worked for New Chapel EMS from December of 2020 until April of 2022. There were several things that could have had and also did have an impact on me. One of them was almost career as well as life ending. For one, I was issued inadequate fire gear. I was issued gear that was meant for a person that is 6'2" and approximately 250 to 280 pounds. My mask that I was issued, if I was to make entry into a burning structure, was too big. Therefore, had I had to go into a burning structure, that mask would have not properly sealed. That could have potentially drawn in smoke, superheated gases, and any toxic particles that would be burning in that structure. That would allow that to enter into my lungs. There were also things on the EMS side. There were several times where I was the only paramedic for Clark and Floyd counties. If somebody in Charlestown needed a paramedic level care, I was usually stationed in the Floyd's Knob station at the end of my service with New Chapel, which meant that person would have to wait potentially up to 30 minutes for a paramedic to get there. That's not fair to anybody, in my opinion. Nobody should have to wait that long for an ambulance. There was no regard for employee safety. We worked long hours. We had no downtime. There were times I was sent on non-emergent transfers to Indianapolis, let's say at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, with maybe 30 minutes of sleep through the whole shift. My shift started at 8 a.m., would run all day. Going to Indianapolis on 30 minutes of sleep for anybody is dangerous. Mistakes can be made. My partner could have wrecked. There were times that I requested to leave because I was running a fever, vomiting, just generally sick all around. My supervisor, no, you can't leave unless you find your own coverage. That's the kind of environment that was fostered there. Turns out I had COVID one of those times. There's no telling how many people, immunocompromised or not, in general, were exposed to COVID because of a practice like that. There was no regard for employee mental health. I may not have the whole 5 minutes to speak, Judge, but
I'll let you know, Ms. Davis.
this is my last thing that I want to say. December 2nd, 2021, 12:51 p.m., I was toned out for an unresponsive male in Georgetown. I got on scene, entered the residence. I had to pronounce not only a former coworker, but a friend of mine deceased. my partner received a phone call from one of the command staff telling my partner he needed to pick me up off the floor and go back available. That run almost ended my career. I have put my heart and soul into this profession. I have missed birthdays. I have missed sporting events, band concerts. And this is how employees were treated. This is how we were treated. No regard for our personal safety, no regard for our mental health. None. I had to sit there and look at my friend dead and be told to get back to work. There was no support offered to me except a phone call that started out with, well, we all know he had issues. No support whatsoever. That all went unresolved until August of the next year in 2022, when I attempted to take my own life.
Ms. Davis. Is that a fireman's tattoo on you?
Yes, sir. It is a fire and EMS tattoo on my chest.
I'm sorry I had to experience that. And I'm sorry for the trauma that was imposed upon you as a result of finding your friend deceased.
Thank you.
Thank you for the courage to come in and speak today.
Thank you for letting me speak.
You're welcome. I wanted to hear from folks like you.
Thank you.
Are you okay now? Getting there?
I'm better. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. My current employer helps
Good,
with that a lot.
good.
Thank you.
As Prosecutor Hurdle stated, I am Susanna Worrell. I want to express my sincere gratitude to you, Judge, for allowing us to present our statements before accepting Mr. Noel's plea agreement. I'm here today to discuss the terrible treatment my brother-in-law experienced from New Chapel Ambulance Service under the direction of Jamey Noel on November 7th, 2023. November 7th, 2023 was Election Day here in Clark County. My brother-in-law, David Red Worrell, was on the ballot for Clarksville Town Council. At 3:20 p.m., Red was outside a polling site in Clarksville, greeting voters, which is 2 miles from Norton Clark Memorial Hospital. At 3:21 p.m., Red stumbles, then falls to the ground. Within 30 seconds after that fall, it was clear he was in a life-threatening situation, struggling to breathe. The timeline of events that occurred are as follows. At 3:22 p.m., 911 call was placed. At 3:23 p.m., CPR was started by voters on the scene. At 3:29 p.m., Clarksville firefighters arrived from a fire station located 1.6 miles away. At 3:33 p.m., paramedic in a chase car arrives. At 3:38 p.m., the ambulance arrives. When dispatch dispatched this ambulance, it was 11.9 miles away. At 3:49 p.m., the ambulance arrives at the hospital. For 16 minutes, citizens, police officers, firefighters, and family members watch as heroic bystanders and firefighters took turns administering CPR. 16 minutes we all waited and wondered where, when, and even if an ambulance would arrive. Did I mention we watched 16 minutes CPR being performed? Have you ever watched CPR being performed on someone? It's devastating. It is scarring. It is burned into my mind. That's all I can remember about that day. Well, that and the sounds of my husband's sobs when he arrived on scene. After waiting for what seemed like an eternity, the ambulance finally arrived to do what we thought was to be a load and go. But no, it took 11 more minutes to get him into the ambulance and travel 2 miles to the hospital. Even with the police escort blocking all street entrances for a faster arrival, it took 27 minutes from when 911 was called until Red arrived at the hospital. Unfortunately, 27 minutes was too long. At 4:13 p.m. on November 7th, 2023, ER doctors at Norton Clark Memorial Hospital called Red's time of death. Could Red still be alive today if the ambulance had arrived faster? Possibly. I believe Jamey Noel and his family, if Jamey Noel and his family had not spent approximately $5 million of New Chapel's money on lavish vacations, expensive suits, high-dollar cigars, cars, and other items, and reinvested the taxpayer dollars back into that ambulance, my life would be completely different today. I was there the day Red died. I watched it all unfold before my eyes. Our family dynamics are changed forever by his death. My husband's grief after the loss of his brother, his best friend, and his business partner is truly devastating.
I'm here to tell you how Jamey Noel and his crimes affected myself and my family's lives while he was out cheating, stealing from his people and businesses and his own family. My son Christopher Charles Sweet went to jail Memorial Day weekend 2017 because of an argument with his fiancée. Police came and someone had to go to jail. It was Chris. 17 hours later, my 37-year-old son lay dead on the floor. The cold concrete floor of your jail, Jamey. He told them he needed his blood pressure medicine and it was brought from home for him just a few hours after he arrived. But they were unable to give him that until the nurse came in and gave the initial dose. Nurse was called and told his blood pressure was lethally high and he was not feeling well. The nurse just put him on medical watch but did not come in, even though his blood pressure was extremely high. Medical watch is to monitor a person, watch for certain things to happen to them, signs of distress, change in color, blood pressure, respirations, pulse, breathing, sweating, color, etc. After that call, Chris started to have chest pain, and for the next 12 hours, he begged for help, and none was given. He laid on that hard, cold floor all night in agony, stating, "I feel like an elephant on my chest. I want to make it clear this is not about Clark County Jail. I have already settled my grievance with them." However, after I found out all the criminal activity that you, Jamey, were involved in, the picture became clear to me that there was no training or education or leadership for your people. Jamey, no training on emergency care. His employees were as much a victim as we were. So next day at 11:30, the nurse came in after he got up and went to church, not caring that his blood pressure was an emergency, and not addressing that emergency. Nurse gave him blood pressure medicine, and in addition to that, he was given a controlled substance that was not ordered for him or ordered by any physician. That's against the law. Jamey, this is no vitals were charted other than the initial high vital sign. The nurse left and went home, but he came back in at 5 o'clock and charted a normal blood pressure reading, 130/80. Only problem was, my son Chris died at 3 o'clock. So he illegally charted that, but the computer stamped it at 5 o'clock. And that's against the law. Your staff should have been trained to handle a medical emergency, especially if you were not going to be around due to your criminal shenanigans and how much more you can get and squander away to make you look like somebody. I was notified Sunday evening that he died by the coroner and chaplain that came to my house. However, we went straight to Clark Memorial, where he was taken to. Several sheriffs and security guards spread out in front of us and informed us that we were not allowed to see or touch him because he was still under their custody until an autopsy was performed to clear them and you, Jamey, of wrongdoing. We saw him 4 days later in his casket. Where were you, Jamey, on that weekend? I tried multiple times to contact you, but you were not available. Were you celebrating the holiday with all your wealth and thievery while my son lay dying on your jail cell floor, frothing at the mouth and turning blue? Jamey, your own family has to hold their head above your crimes in this town that they were raised in, and you didn't even care about them. You put yourself above your greed, above all others. The saddest part is, family and your voters had you pretty high up there. They really thought a lot of you. Now they have found out who you truly are. Jamey, you are less than any person I know, and I hope you rot in prison. My son was a good man. He adored his children, Hannah and Avery. They were his whole life. Now they have to live the rest of their lives without a father. Chris was not a criminal, a drug addict, or an alcohol abuser. He tried really hard to live his life the right way, with respect and integrity to others. He lost his life over a simple little argument and was sent to his death chamber under your watch. In your lack of leadership, his manner of death, he did not have occluded arteries. His manner of death was determined natural causes.
Ms. Sweet, your time is up if you have a closing.
Okay. Well, just let me say that, let me see what I want to say next. Well, anyway, I'll go on and say, again, for your lack of leadership, I lay this on your shoulders and I have you suffer every day. Now, I want to say, too, that when you're laying in your jail cell and have anxiety and can't get your breath, I want you to think about my son every time. I hope that haunts you for the rest of your life because it's going to be with us for the rest of ours.
Ms. Sweet, I can only imagine the depth of your loss. If my son was to pass away, I think my world would end. I'm sorry.
Well, that was all due to the way he wasn't giving attention to his elected chair for all the things he was doing. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
I want to aim this directly at you, okay? I'm speaking on behalf of Leon's kids. I'm his ex-wife, mother of his youngest son, Jack. We trusted you to handle Leon's estate and give the kids what was rightfully theirs when he passed away. Leon trusted you to do what was right for his children since he was not going to make it. He literally had to make a will in the hospital. Do you remember him passing away? I'm sure you do since you were there in the hospital with all of us when he did. I don't see how you can say in your Facebook post that your brother Leon is missed and loved after what you've done to him and his children. I believe in you and I have a very different definition of the word love. I'm not sure why you felt the need to steal from the estate since you were already stealing from everyone else. And you claim to be a Christian man. Did you know greed was one of the 7 deadly sins? Apparently you didn't pay much attention in church. When you gave the checks to the kids from the estate, the amounts were lower than I would have expected, but I did not question it because I was not married to Leon anymore and I did not know his financial status. So I never questioned it. Why would I? His brother, the sheriff, was handling it since you were the executor. Looking back now, I wish I had gotten a lawyer for the kids when he passed. I remember having numerous phone calls with you, trusting you, even sent you a thank you gift of cigars that I contacted John Miller to see what your favorite cigars were. I was grateful that you handled the estate process and wanted to thank you for doing so. I had them sent to your house and you never even acknowledged it or said thank you. Now I know why. Then a little over 5 years later, we find out that you have stolen from the same estate that I thanked you for handling. From your nephews Dorian, Jack, from your niece Taylor, your brother's children who lost their father, like that wasn't bad enough. Now here we are dealing with courts differently than you did your other kids. Leon had more to do with her than you did, and he was just her uncle. At least he didn't steal from her like you did to your nieces and nephews. He was the better brother, the better uncle, and a better father than you'll ever be. Your niece Taylor has written you a letter. I'll read it for you. From Taylor. I am extremely disgusted by your actions towards not only the family but to this county. What you did is unacceptable and will pay the consequences. There is no getting out of this. Because of you, the family now has trust issues. The family never sees each other. The family now has trauma. You really hurt us in a way no family member should ever have to go through. And you hurt this country, or this county, because now we don't trust our elected officials either because of the corruption you've caused. And I hope one day, and if you're ever released, and you can finally be a decent human being, because what you have done is pure evil, and I expect apologies to everyone. And she wants to really hope this thing sinks in for you at this part. That Grandma, your mom, Grandpa, your dad, and Leon would be very disappointed in you. Karma is coming for you, and I hope you realize how bad this upsets me. Have fun in prison because you deserve it. Yeah, that's what I want to see right there, is you crying. Finally, some reaction. You've put us through hell.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for all the trauma that you and your family have experienced from this.
Thank you for letting me
I
speak.
hope you can heal.
Thank you very much for letting me speak.
You're welcome.
Noel, who appeared in court shackled and wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, apologized to the people for his actions.
To repent, which I have and I will, and to ask for forgiveness, and I apologize. I'm sorry I wasn't able to apologize to any of the witnesses that spoke earlier. There's some reasoning that I'm not going to say because I don't want to dare make it look like I'm trying to deflect blame because it's mine. The reasons of how this was allowed to happen, that's not who I am. It's definitely a big mistake that I made. But first, victims that you haven't heard from is not me. And I apologize. I asked my kids to forgive me, not being honest with them about where the money was spent or came from. My dishonesty with them has caused them all great emotional pain and suffering. My daughter Casey could lose her freedom because of me. It's all my fault. And my family had no knowledge of the business that I was running, or how I was running it, or whether or not I had the right to tell them how they could spend their money or use their credit cards. I controlled everything when it came to our family's finances. I can think maybe over 28 years of being married that my wife may have asked for 10 checks school related that she would have ever signed in her finances. I took out the garbage. That was my wheelhouse. My family trusted me to do that, and obviously didn't do it. I prepared everyone's tax returns on TurboTax without their input. Matter of fact, when my daughter Casey, after she bonded out, she said, "Dad, could you please do my taxes? I need the money because I paid the bond." And I said, "Casey, I can't do it." She'd just been charged for something that was my fault that I did on her taxes. They were victims of my deceit just like anybody else. I hope they can forgive me. Second, I asked my wife, 28 years, to forgive me. I understand why she wants to end our marriage. I don't blame her. I violated her trust more than once. and I lied to her. I know this has caused her embarrassment and a lot of heartache and hatred being funneled towards her. I was not honest with her about the money, the credit cards, or her taxes, which I did. I'm sorry that I caused her so much pain and embarrassment, and I'm sorry. I want to apologize to the citizens of Clark County that trusted me, that voted for me, and let me be their sheriff, including everybody, and some of which you heard from, that helped campaign for me. I let sin overtake me, and I violated their trust, and I'm sorry. I want to apologize to the men and women of law enforcement, fire, and EMS. I spent a lifetime as a law enforcement officer, volunteer fireman, and an EMT. And I know how difficult it is to do the job. My activities have tarnished the reputation of public safety community, and it's not fair to them. None deserve the public to look at them and worry about their integrity. My actions should not tarnish them. It's my fault. I want to apologize to my friends and colleagues that have been brought into this case because of me. I'm sorry to each and every one of you. I never asked anyone to do anything wrong. I never expected you to do anything wrong, but because of me, you have suffered. I'm sorry for this, and I apologize. I apologize to you, Judge, to the prosecutor, to the legal team, and in the end, thank them for being fair and forthright in consideration of my crimes. I do not look forward to the next 12 years, Judge, if you accept this plea, but I understand why I'll be spending time in prison, and I accept it. Finally, I ask for forgiveness. I'm a lifelong Catholic, and I understand the Lord will forgive me, and I hope each one of you can forgive me as well. Judge, I'm going to say just a short prayer, because that's what I need to do. I need to make things right. I confess to Almighty God, to you, my brothers and sisters, that I have sinned through my own thoughts and my words, and what I've done and what I've failed to do. Through my faults, through the most grievous faults. Therefore, I ask the Blessed Mary, the Virgin, and all the saints and angels, and you, my brothers and sisters, to pray for me to the Lord my God. I'm sorry, and I hope I didn't leave anybody or anything out. Thank you, Ron.
Special Judge Larry Medlock of Washington County had some tough words for Noel, holding him accountable for his actions.
Over a year ago, I got a call from General Counsel for the Indiana Supreme Court, wondering if I would accept the assignment of the investigation into the potential misdeeds of Jamey Noel. I wasn't given any explanation as to the allegations that were being levied against him. Yet I accepted the assignment as my duty to the citizens of the state of Indiana. One afternoon, I received a text from Officer Heron that said, "Are you available for a search warrant affidavit and probable cause?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Can you tell me a little bit what it's about?" He said, "I believe I found all the missing shipping containers that were obtained by Clark County Sheriff's Department, but that are now missing." And there was a short delay, and it said, "and a train." I immediately had to call him because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said, "Did you really say a train?" He said, "Yeah, a train." That's the way this case has proceeded. One outlandish discovery after another. You have failed everyone. You failed as an uncle and a brother in all regard. You failed as a father. I would have thought that any honorable man would have accepted responsibility for their misdeeds instead of getting your daughter arrested and charged. Yet you sat silent until today. Your commitment to your extravagant greed even went so far as to steal from your nieces and nephews, your deceased brother's children. What could be more reprehensible than that? Your actions have revealed that your lust for power and pleasure are worth far more than the lives of those entrusted to you for your care, but today the court says otherwise. I have wrestled with the idea of accepting or rejecting this plea. When I was here last Friday, counsel for Mr. Miller made argument that everybody wants you to do a lifetime in prison. And maybe that's what you deserve. But the law will not allow me to do that. I asked Office of Court Services to do an analysis. A fellow up there I respect, and is probably a lot smarter than me, as to what the minimum and maximum I might be able to give to you would be. And we've had discussions about that, and I've discussed it with others and done my own research. I could give you perhaps more time, but then I would be subject to an appeal, and the Court of Appeals might lower my sentence substantially, as I recently had done in Washington County. They thought I give them too much. I thought I was right, but the Court of Appeals said otherwise. You can't just take each count and add a year. There's issues concerning continuous criminal conduct and minimum and maximum and how they're tied together with all the other charges and time elements. So as I've analyzed this, I've come to the conclusion that it's a very substantial sentence, considering that these are level 5s and level 6 felonies. And I also listened today carefully. And not one of them indicated that they wanted you to spend more time in prison. They wanted you to remember your deceased brother for the rest of your life and what you did to his children. Some of them want you to suffer. And you can understand that, I would hope, considering how you betrayed everybody that you possibly knew. Everybody that thought you were their friend. Matt Owen could barely look at you. He held you up as a father figure. Supported you when you were telling everybody it's a witch hunt. He still believed you. Yet you deceived everybody. Witch hunt. Way to deflect responsibility. So, with reluctance, I will accept the plea agreement.